Okay, hello everybody. My name's Jameson Chase Young, and this is Coins and History. I have my 1927 peace silver dollars. After that, we'll be talking about Charles Lindbergh's first solo transatlantic flight across the Atlantic Ocean. But yeah, my 1927 peace silver dollars. I really love the peace silver dollars. I really got into them because a coin shop used to sell them for $1 less than the Morgan silver dollars, and that's a little bit common. You can sometimes find them cheaper than Morgans, even though the Morgans are, a lot of them are more common. People just like the Morgans are more highly sought after, so people buy them more and they'll spend more on them. But the peace silver dollars are really amazing coins, and I think they have a really great design. The design was designed by a man named Anthony D. Francisci. They came in after the 1918 Pittman Act. Then the 1918 Pittman Act did not, affect them because, they didn't start making peace silver dollars till 1921. And it's also cool to note that when you look at the peace silver dollar in God We Trust, it's not spelled with a U, it's spelled with a V. The V stands for victory in World War I. And then on the back, you'll also notice that the eagle is not grabbing a bunch of arrows. It's just grabbing a bunch of nice little leaves. They intentionally did that because, it was post-World War I, so they wanted to, make it look like a peace silver dollar. Its mass is 26.73 grams. Its diameter is 38.1 millimeters. Its thickness is 2.4 millimeters. Its edge is reeded. Its composition, it's 90% silver, 10% copper. Its total silver has a 0.77344 troy ounces in it. The years they made them was 1921 to 1928, and then again in 1934 through 1935. The 1927, the total mintage for the peace silver dollar comes out to a 2,982,900. Now this one, the Denver mint, it comes out to 1,268,900. That's how many they minted in Denver. And then the Philadelphia mint minted 848,000. And then the San Francisco mint minted 866,000. The 1927 is a little bit more rare compared to a lot of the other Morgan silver dollars. Seems like 1922, 1923, 1924, those years are extremely common. But yeah, they're great coins. They have a great history. It's a really good thing that they didn't run into the Pittman Act and get melted down. And what was going on at this time was Charles Lindbergh's first flight across the Atlantic Ocean. First solo transatlantic flight. Charles Lindbergh, he was born in 1902. He died in Hawaii in 1974. He was an American aviator, military officer, and author. On May 20th to 21, 1927, he made the first nonstop flight from New York to Paris, a distance of 3,600 miles, flying alone over 33 hours. His aircraft, the Spirit of St. Louis, was built to compete for the $25,000 Ortigue Prize for the first flight between the two cities, Paris and New York. Although not the first transatlantic flight, it was the first, solo crossing of the Atlantic Ocean, and it was the longest at the time by nearly 2,000 miles, setting a new flight distance world record. The achievement garnered Lindbergh worldwide fame and stands as one of the most consequential flights in history, signaling a new era in the air transportation between parts of the globe. Lindbergh was raised mostly in Little Falls, Minnesota, and Washington, D.C. He was the son of a U.S. Congressman, Charles August Lindbergh. He became a U.S. Army Air Service cadet in 1924. The next year, he was hired as a U.S. Air Mail pilot in the greater St. Louis area, where he began to prepare for a crossing of the Atlantic. For his 1927 flight, President Calvin Coolidge presented him both the Distinguished Flying Cross and the Medal of Honor, which is kind of unusual because, usually the Medal of Honor is, designated for like combat bravery. It's the highest decoration in the U.S. military. He was promoted to colonel in the U.S. Army Air Corps Reserve. His achievement spurred a significant global interest in flight training and commercial aviation and airmail, which revolutionized the aviation industry worldwide. Time magazine named Lindbergh its first Man of the Year 1927. President Hoover appointed him to the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics in 1929. But yeah, how this flight came to be was it was a French-born New Yorker named Raymond Ortigue. He put up a $25,000 reward for the first successful nonstop transatlantic flight between New York and Paris. Within 5 years after its establishment, when he put that reward in 1919. So, and he said for 5 years he wants somebody to do it in 5 years, but by 1924, nobody had. And a lot of good people tried. A couple World War I ace fighter pilots, they all tried and failed. And Lindbergh's plane was the Spirit of St. Louis. Financing the historic flight was a challenge due to Lindbergh's obscurity, but two St. Louis businessmen eventually obtained a $15,000 bank loan. Lindbergh contributed $2,000. That's the equivalent of $36,000 in 2024, and another $1,000 was donated by the RAC. The total of $18,000 was far less than what was available to Lindbergh's rivals. The flight, in the early morning of Friday, May 20th, 1927, Lindbergh took off from Roosevelt Field in Long Island. His destination was right outside of Paris, about 7 miles outside of Paris, 30,610 miles. From his starting point, Lindbergh was too busy the night before to lie down for so he only lied down for a couple hours, only got like a couple hours of sleep. For its transatlantic flight, the Spirit was loaded with 450 gallons of fuel that was filtered. It was filtered repeatedly to avoid fuel line blockage. The fuel load was about 1,000 pounds heavier than the Spirit had lifted off during test flights. The total Spirit of St. Louis weighed around 5,200 pounds. News soon spread across both Europe and the United States that Lindbergh had been spotted over England, and a crowd started to form in Paris where he was going to land. At sunset, he flew over the French coast, 200 miles. It was around 2:52 New York time, 2:52 p.m. New York time, over 33 and a half hours later. Arrival to Paris, Lindbergh circled the Eiffel Tower before flying to the airfield. He flew over the crowd there and at 10:16 and landed at 10:22 p.m. on Saturday, May 21, on the far side of the field, nearly half a mile from the crowd. A crowd of roughly 150 people stormed the field, dragged Lindbergh out of the cockpit, carried him around above their head for nearly half an hour. Some minor damage was done to his plane, the Spirit of St. Louis, because of souvenir hunters. Before the pilots and the pilot and the plane reached the safety of the nearby hangar with the aid of the French military soldiers. So yeah, they really wanted to get a hold of little pieces. They were stripping off little pieces of everything they could get their hands on. And actually, like, soldiers had to come and guard the plane and wheel the plane into the shed. This is one of the most famous flights ever. It's obviously one of the most important flights ever to prove that, you could fly all the way across the Atlantic, and this was only 24 years after the Wright brothers invented the plane. So it's pretty amazing that the technology had advanced as fast as it did, to think that you could fly that many thousands of miles just a little ways after. But anyway, this is what was going on in 1927 when this piece silver dollar was being minted. It's an amazing piece of history. The history of airplanes is pretty cool, and this Morgan silver dollar is also pretty cool. And if you enjoy these videos, please like them and please subscribe to the channel. My name's Jameson Chase Young, and this is Coins in History. Thank you.